Is now, sorry. Madam Clerk, let's call this meeting to order. Proceed with the chamber announcement.
Upon activation of the emergency alarm signal, all persons should immediately exit the building. Please use the exits to the left, right, or front of the council chamber, or the east or west stairwell outside the rear doors of the chamber. Do not use elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, proceed down 9th Street and enter the assembly area located in the former Public Safety Building parking lot. Able persons should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period and/or public hearings are generally allowed 3 minutes to speak. Persons appearing before the committee are not allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use language of a personal nature which also demeans any person, including the comments directed at public officials or staff members that are not related to their official duties, or address the question to staff members directly. All questions should be directed to the committee chair. Failure to adhere to the guidelines may result in speakers forfeiting any remaining time and further disciplinary action as necessary, which could include barred from attendance at future meetings of the committee for a period of 6 months. Madam Chair, this concludes the announcements.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We had no one signed up prior to the 10 a.m. deadline to address items on or off today's agenda.
And you said no one online either?
That's virtually. We don't know who will be present in the chamber, but we have none virtually.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We'll move on to the papers. We said we'll do 1 and then 2 and 3 in a block, and then 4 and 5.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, did you want to proceed with the approval of the minutes?
Oh, okay, yeah, we can do that.
Okay. The minutes to be approved are from the April 22nd, 2025 Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee meeting. If there are no amendments or corrections, then those meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Would you like to open up the floor for public comment? The announcement that I gave earlier was in regards to virtual speakers, but we might have some people in the chamber that want to provide comment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay. We now proceed, open the floor for public comment period. Is there anyone here present today that would like to address the committee for items not on today's agenda? All right, you may approach the podium and state your name for the record.
And I am a property owner in Richmond's first district. And I'm here to speak in support of this committee and city council proceeding with the rental inspection program as expeditiously as possible. As a landlord, I think this program will help ensure that my investment is up to code and the properties surrounding our property will also be up to code and will protect the value of our investment. My understanding is, or I've been told that the current proposed ordinance currently uses the descriptor of blighted and to describe property that needs to be inspected. And we'd like to ask council not to use that language because it's weighted. Virginia code allows for the use of either blighted or deteriorating. Given the history of the word blighted during years of neighborhood destroying redlining, we want to ensure that that word doesn't cause any unintended consequences, labeling neighborhoods and so on. We also would like to encourage the council to encourage full transparency of code violations in the city. So tenants, prospective tenants, landlords, and city council can all have the information needed to make best housing decisions. And finally, I just want to ask this committee to support the ordinance when it comes before you next month, and also when it comes before the full council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, y'all. Thank you for having me. My name is Erin Trimmer. I'm here to also speak about the rental inspection program. I have just a couple thoughts. I'd like to echo what Paul said about the use of the word blighted within the ordinance. Virginia code does use blighted or deteriorating, but does not actually define Blighted, it's kind of a descriptor. It kind of means the same thing as deteriorating. And because that is such a loaded term, especially in this city, we'd like to ask that you defer from using it if it's at all possible. Second, I'd like to talk about in the draft ordinance, there is a decision to forego collecting initial inspection fees for the rental inspection program. We think this is a missed opportunity to make sure that that program is as fully funded and staffed as possible. And so we'd like for y'all to consider making sure that there are initial fees and there are reinspection fees collected during that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trimmer.
Hello, my name is Caroline Toby, and I'm physically unable to drive. Therefore, I'm a full-time bus rider. While going to Target at Willow Lawn the other day, I noticed that GRTC bus stop number 444 has no bench or shelter, which can become incredibly difficult for riders of all ages with disabilities, as well as our senior citizens who deserve a dignified place to wait for their bus. This is also a violation of city and state laws passed last year, ensuring that each bus stop in the region and across our Commonwealth would have a designated bench and shelter, which is why I continue to support the Richmond Connects plan to ensure dignified places to wait for all riders of all abilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toby.
Hello there, I'm Julie O'Brien. I'm the policy coordinator for marijuana justice, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here today because through the creation of the zoning for the tobacco stores that you all have been discussing, you've sparked interest in the conversation about regulated adult cannabis use, which is in the near future in the Commonwealth. Marijuana justice has been at the forefront with statewide policy organizing, and we want to support localities like Richmond to benefit from the statewide regulation. As currently proposed, there'll be between 3 to 6% of all licensed Richmond adult use sales poured into Richmond city budget, proving a new revenue stream for the city. But the revenue will depend on how the city supports new businesses, manages public health and zoning, all while meeting the demands of the new market. Marijuana justice is in support of ensuring that spaces made for children and families will be separate from marijuana storefronts, and we also understand Richmond's uniqueness in built environment because we're such a dense landlocked city. We want to allow the updated cannabis shops to be heavily regulated and provide options for zoning and to be a public partner as you all move forward in discussing these plans. We have no comment on the tobacco shop restrictions, but we're here to encourage the city not to think about tobacco and hemp as the same as marijuana, because on the statewide level, they are going to be regulated very differently. Thank you to the commission for all the work, and we look forward to being a thought partner for you moving forward within the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, members of the council chambers. My name is Amori Speed, and I am here as a community organizer, organizing with the Richmond Housing Justice Collective. And I'm going to read a testimony on behalf of one of the tenants here in the city. Hello, my name is Benny Gates, and I am a resident of the 9th District. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Richmond chapter of Virginia Organizing and our efforts to instate a rental inspection program in the city. This past weekend, Virginia Organizing, alongside the Richmond Housing Justice Collective, canvassed 6 neighborhoods where tenants are already organizing and want this needed program. We have petitions in hand and ask that you consider these official petitions to add to their properties into the rental inspection program. We ask the clerk to add these to the official record. One of the many doors that were knocked this past weekend, only 5 tenants declined to sign their initials. Multiple properties had 100% of tenants we spoke with eager to sign up in support of this rental inspection program. We canvassed in the 2nd, 3rd, 6th, 7th, and 9th district in just one day. That is the power and dedication of our tenant organizing groups to get this program instated quickly and efficiently. These 6 properties reflect the diversity of housing stock in Richmond, from income-based, LIHTC properties to luxury and stylish loft apartments. The rents go all the way up to $1,800 for a 1-bedroom. For buildings that are not up to code, slumlords do not discriminate in our city. It is our job as council, it is your job as council to instate a program that the tenants not only want but also need. We ask that this committee vote to send the rental inspection ordinance to the full council for approval during the June meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, and tell Benny we said thank you as well.
Is there anyone else here present today that would like to provide comment about items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, the public comment period is now closed.
All right, Madam Clerk, we can move on to the papers.
Item 1, ordinance 2025-104, to repeal city code concerning the establishment of floodplain districts, district boundaries, and the official floodplain map, and modification to requirements of the building code, and to amend city code concerning floodplain management for the purpose of aligning the city code with the letter of final determination from the Federal Emergency Management Agency regarding the city's revised floodplain insurance rate map. That paper's before the committee.
I believe someone from the administration is going to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Before I read, I wanted to know if anyone had any questions right off the bat.
Could you state your name?
I'm sorry, my name is Janae Prevost-White. Work for the Department of Public Utilities in the Engineering Services and the Water Resources Division.
There probably may be some questions afterwards, so if
Okay.
you want to just.
It's really brief. The Department of Public Utilities is recommending the formal adoption of the updated floodplain ordinance to reflect the most recent FEMA flood insurance study and accompanying the flood insurance rate maps. These maps were released in preliminary form on February 2nd, 2022, and will become effective July 8th, 2025. Flooding is the #1 natural disaster in the United States. It is vital for property owners to understand their risk and take advantage of the tools and programs available to them, including flood insurance, to help reduce flooding impacts. Flood maps show the extent to which there are areas of risk for flooding, and when they become effective, updated maps will be used to help determine flood insurance and build requirements. By law, federally regulated or insured mortgage lenders require flood insurance on buildings that are located in areas at high risk of flooding. Standard homeowners and business owners and renters insurance policies do not cover flood damage. FEMA updates the FIS and firm once every 5 years. The updated FEMA flood insurance study is the result of more sophisticated hydraulic and hydrologic modeling and improvements in terrain data. These advancements have identified flood risks that were either previously underestimated or not captured by older studies. Some areas of the map, the mapped floodplain, have expanded as a result of this refined analysis. City of Richmond Code already includes provisions requiring that the more restrictive conditions between the preliminary and the effective FEMA firms be used to determine governing floodplain boundaries. This has allowed the city to proactively manage development risk and ensure public safety in flood-prone areas. Starting in 2023, the preliminary maps underwent a full public engagement process, including FEMA-led open houses and a formal appeals period to address disputed areas. That process was comprehensive and inclusive, providing transparency and engagement with the public and stakeholders. For the past 3 years, Richmond has reviewed development proposal using these preliminary maps. This extended review has provided both the development community and city staff with time to validate the integrity and accuracy of the updated map. Through this process, we have consistently found the new FIS and firm to be a reliable representation of flood risk within the city. The maps became final January of 2025. It is important to understand for the city to remain in good standing with the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA requires adoption of the local ordinance that reflects the updated map. Continued participation in the NFIP is critical, as it ensures Richmond property owners have access to federally underwritten flood insurance. Failure to adopt this ordinance may result in the suspension of NFIP coverage, removal from the Community Rating System, or CRS, exposing property owners to financial risk, loss of federal assistance, and limiting future development opportunities in mapped floodplain. Based on this experience, city staff fully endorses the updated model and support the adoption of the proposed ordinance. Formalizing this adoption is essential to ensuring the continued protection of our residents and infrastructure, as well as to maintaining eligibility for federal insurance coverage.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we hold a public hearing for this paper.
Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of item 1? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of item 1? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee. The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 1, ordinance 2025-104, to council with a recommendation to approve. Mr. Brunson?
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson? Chair Jones?
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
All right, we'll move to, all these papers, Jesus. Item 2 and 3, we're gonna do them together.
Okay. Item 2, ordinance 2025-105, to designate the 300 block of North 32nd Street in honor of Reverend Dr. Edward Daniel McCreary Jr. Item 3, ordinance 2025-106, to designate the 2100 block of Edwards Avenue in honor of Harold Thomas. Those papers are before the committee.
Public hearing, Madam Chair, Madam Clerk.
Is there anyone here present today that would like to speak in support of item 2 or 3? Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in opposition of item 2 or 3? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the body. The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 2, ordinance 2025-105, to council with a recommendation to approve, and item 3, ordinance 2025-106, to council with a recommendation to approve. Mr. Brunson?
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson? Vice Chair Robertson?
Aye.
Thank you. Chair Jones? That motion has been approved.
Next paper.
Okay. Item 4, Resolution 2024-R041, to express support for the study and installation of photo speed monitoring devices in high-risk intersection segments, including the 600 and 700 blocks of South Belvedere Street and through the City of Richmond's Department of Police Safety Camera Program, and to request that the CAO consider identifying additional locations for the installation of photo speed monitoring devices and increasing the number of photo speed monitoring devices deployed by the city. That paper is for the committee.
Good evening, members of the Land Use Committee, City Council.
Major Armstead, Richmond City Police Department. How are you today? I take it you have received the PowerPoint that was issued out? Yes, that. Yes, okay. With that, if you look at a couple things, a couple questions that were asked at the last meeting, reference to the price, the cost, excuse me, the cost of setting up new devices. As you can see, there is a significant cost to set up new devices. We're talking about like $7,000 more to put up new devices. And then you look at the contract that we currently have. The contract is a 5-year contract. $5 million, and by only 26 active cameras can be set on that contract for speed enforcement, which we are at 26 active cameras now in 13 schools. So it would be hard to say put other cameras up when this current contract says that we only have 26 cameras. So you would have to venture outside, we have to go get another contract, this vendor or some other vendor, and basically start that bidding, start that selection process all over again. And again, what I was stressing is that it comes at a cost, not only to whomever's going to pay that cost, but with manpower for the police department that we have to increase to monitor extra cameras if we decide to set extra cameras up throughout the city for speed enforcement. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I just want to clarify the cost that you're describing. I think I see a number for about $800,000 a year for 6 schools. So I understand you're suggesting that beyond the $5 million contract that we already have, if we were to expand to 6 more schools, we would have to find $860,000 to cover it. Is that what the analysis is telling us?
Yeah, for the 800 and you would have to, like, first you got to get another contract because we only supplying these contracts. So first you have to get another contract because we're already at the maximum amount of cameras that we can put on this one contract. So once you get that contract, whatever that cost will be for that new contract will be the cost you have to pay. This is just an example of what it looks like now, but that cost could change.
I see. So we don't have one yet, but there is an estimate here of 864, which is an estimate of what that new contract might cost for 6 more schools.
May cost, yes. May cost, but like I said, you just got to get a new contract.
And I'm noticing that the 6 specified, or is that number 6 just an example number, or are those a specific 6 from this list?
What are you talking about?
Well, I see that it's annual cost for 6 schools. So I was wondering if those 6 were specified or if that was just an example number for the scale.
Example number, because we got them at 13 schools, 26 cameras.
And generally speaking, the reason that these would not be self-funded the way the existing ones are is, what's the reason for that?
We haven't had a mechanism to recoup that money yet. So that's what we're working on now, because the vendor actually is holding money that should be given back, but we have to establish a way of getting that money back right now. We haven't set that up yet.
Oh, so
almost $2 million being held by the vendor that we can't touch yet because we have no way of getting that money to us.
Well, can you clarify then that you said so this is a self-funded program? This is not. I know there's another program where the money goes to the state.
It is self-funded, but if to cover costs such as other costs such as the manpower costs and any other costs you want, the company, we get a portion of the money, but we can't. The company is holding. I don't think anyone from City Council. I don't think anyone in City Council have seen that money yet because the vendor has the money. So we're just paying for it. We just paid for it, but the vendor holds the money right now.
Can you explain why we don't have the money and why they have it instead of us?
A mechanism of setting that up hasn't been done yet. We're currently working on that. One of my financial guys are currently working on that to try to iron that out. Hopefully we will.
So if you had a mechanism set up, then we could set up another 6 schools for $860,000, but we in that would have a mechanism to get the money back more quickly, and it would be less of a burden. Would that
You
be
could
true?
get the money back, you can set up schools, but again, the contract states 26 cameras.
On the current $5 million contract.
Yes, and we have 26 cameras now.
Yeah. So, and even in the current one, we're not
We'll
actually even
fund-
getting
we'll
our
be
money
pretty
back.
much funding a new contract because it'd have to be a new contract.
Okay. I mean, like, so, yeah, I mean, people are just trying to understand if they're going to see more cameras or not. And so, yeah.
You can see, like I said, you can see more cameras, just what it's going to cost and who's going to pay and how we're going to pay it. It just, but we can see more cameras. It's just the cost, the manpower that we have to worry about. That has to be concerned.
And so I think what we asked was what was the cost and what it would look like as a part of this study. So this, what we're getting is the actual cost. So I think
Yeah.
he's providing us with what we've asked for, but now we need to focus on whether or not what we want to do with this paper.
Councilman Robinson, you look at me with concern. What you got? I've seen that look before. What you got? Hmm. Any other questions? All right. Any other questions?
Well, I'm sorry. You do have a question. Please then go ahead. And I'm full of questions about this stuff because my residents ask me questions about this, and I want to be able to say it back to them and to tell them what's going on. And so I know there's a number of programs. There's the school safety program, and then there's the additional high risk intersection program.
Yeah.
And I believe the second one is the one that has no mechanism to get our money back, right? Because of the way the state law is set up. But the school one does, but I'm hearing the two limitations are we've maxed out our existing contract, and then we would need a second contract to expand it. And then on top of that, even with the existing contract, we don't seem to have a mechanism to get the money back, which is not the question we asked you. That's a separate question to figure that out.
Yeah, but we're working on that, how to get the money back. Hopefully we'll be able to get some mechanism of recouping money that we should have.
Yeah.
Or that city should have.
And so with respect to the cost, then as long as you get the money back, that would actually reduce the cost, right? As long as we had a plan of a way of getting that money.
We have a plan
back.
of getting that money back. But yes, again, like I say, we'd have to go on a new contract.
Okay. Now separately, the high risk, which is not in schools, there is a cost for that. Is it the same cost as this, or is there a different cost for that?
Probably a different cost for that.
Are we getting that information today as well, or is that a separate question?
Good afternoon, Chair Johnson, members of the committee. I'll try to answer as much I can. The school zone camera, they are already active and installed on 13 schools, total 26 cameras. That was procured separately for $5 million contract limit. That can only go with the 26 camera, 13 schools up to $5 million. And that is a sustainable program, from citation, the revenue collected will stay in the city and we can spend on operation and maintenance and also Vision Zero initiatives that we already know. But if you plan to include high risk intersection segment, HRIS, that is not part of the school zone camera and contract limit. It has to be a separate procurement. Before that procurement happens, you have to have money to procure a contract. And what that 864 is just an example for the 6 schools where the school zone cameras already active, only for 4 hours, 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. But if you will make it as HRIS, high risk, and they are eligible. These 6 schools are eligible for high risk intersection segment. If you want to make this HRIS, then it will be 24/7. So imagine that you have a 300, you have about $3,629 per camera per month at school zone, but for only for 4 hours. But if you go with the 24/7, the cost is a lot more. So we talked to the vendor who is providing that. This is just estimate because if you go with a separate procurement, you have to see what the actual cost will be. From his point of view, for HRIS to covering 20 additional hours will cost about $4,000 per camera at per month. So if school zone has 2 cameras, one in each direction, so that will be about $8,000 additional funding that needs to be provided. For 6 school, it's about for 12 months, it's about $96,000. And if we example is 6 schools, they are eligible. This will be $576,000 per year. On top, there will be a 4 to 5 additional that officers will be needed to process the citation. There will be quite a big number for 20 additional hours. And that cost will be about $288,000. So you can imagine it will be about $864,000 to cover just HRIS. And the difference is anything you collect on HRIS from these 6 schools, they will not coming to the city. They will going to the state. And you may not see this money back again in cities. So it's not sustainable the way it is right now. So council has choice that council and city administration will lobby again in coming General Assembly session and change the state code. So HRIS can also revert it back to the city or localities who collect the money. And that is a sustainable approach. Other than that, we expect each year about $864,000 or $900,000 council budget, and then we procure, and then we install. And that money needs to be upfronted. Until then, I think it's not a sustainable program. So that's why we said that under our next steps, page number 2, that first is reaching out to General Assembly. And second, if you still want to implement, then alternately, council find about $900,000 or up to $1 million, and then we procure, and then we find the actual cost. Until then, it's just estimated from the existing vendor.
I guess one assumption I want to hear about that, because these are setting very big numbers that are kind of designed to discourage us. Do they have to be 24 hours a day, or could they also be, 6 hours a day, like rush hour hours?
It allows 24 hours a day. And I think if you install, the major cost is for camera and operation and maintenance, then you would like to take advantage of that 24 hours allowed by state code.
You good? Okay, so just to level set and to make sure that, right, to ensure the paper or the resolution, because this has been dragged out for far too long, express support for a study and installation of photo speed. So the study has been done. Then we asked how much it's going to cost. We received how much the cost is.
Yes.
Then it said to identify additional locations for the installation of photo speeds. We cannot add any additional cameras because we are currently maxed out at the contract with the 26, correct? Is that correct?
Yes, we have to separate out existing cameras.
Right.
Because to that procurement is standalone procurement. If
Right.
you want to include HRIS, you have to procure a separate contract. So it cannot be added on the previous contract period. And that's what the difference is. And from our point of view, the list of locations are identified where they are eligible for HRIS. And if it's a council's will, if they want to budget the money, we will start working on the separate procurement.
Thank you. Well, let's hold a public hearing on this paper and then we can make a motion to do. Thank you, Kara.
Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of item 4? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of item 4? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
So I guess the discussion is that we've already received the study, and so the goal of this paper has been met. And so for that reason, we are going, I guess I would move that we strike the paper because we've gotten the study that we wanted.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion. I moved for that and it's been seconded.
Do we have a second? The committee is voting on the motion, is voting on the motion to strike item 4, resolution 2024 R041. Mr. Breton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson, Chair Jones.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Let's move to paper number 5, Madam Clerk.
Item 5, resolution 2025 R018, to support the application of allocation of $10 million through VDOT Revenue Sharing Program to provide maintenance and construction assistance to certain transportation projects. That paper is before the committee.
Is there anyone here to speak? Anyone from the administration?
Good afternoon, Chair Jones and council members of the committee. I'm Kara from Department of Public Works. This resolution is a request to the City Council to approve City of Richmond participating and supporting the projects for state's revenue sharing program for FY27, FY28 funding. Revenue sharing program, under this program, city is eligible for the 50% match for 50% match. 50% comes from city and 50% comes from the state. This is a biannual application process. Last time it was 25-26, so this is FY27 and FY28. Under each year, 27 is $5 million program and FY28 is $5 million program. So together in one cycle is a $10 million program. And since the inception of the revenue sharing program, we have maximized and we have received every year the maximum number of amount available to the state, to the cities. The deadline to put this application, pre-application is end of this month. And once pre-application is cleared by Virginia Department of Transportation, the formal application process will start in August. At this time, we identified four projects in council adopted FY25, this is active CIP budget, that has funding available and there's a need for additional funding on those projects. So we have selected those 4 projects to bring $5 million in FY27 and FY28 each. Those are Jefferson Avenue Improvement Project for $1.2 million state funds, Brookland Park Boulevard Improvement Phase 2 for $1.5 million, Chaco Valley Street Improvement for $1.3 million, and Harold Improvement in FY27 is $1 million and FY28 is $5 million, so total of $6 million for Harold. Each project has a funding gap, so this will help us to proceed and fully fund these projects from adopted budgets. We'll be happy to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, we'll hold a public hearing on this paper.
Is there anyone here present that would like to speak in support of item 5? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of item 5? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee. The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 5, resolution 2025 R018 to council with the recommendation to approve. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson? Chair Jones?
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
All right, Madam Clerk, let's get to the reason why we're here. But we're gonna shift things around a little bit. Let's do the presentation on housing tools, land use first, traffic calming, and then the tree canopy. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Jones, Councilman Breton, and Councilwoman Robertson. My name is Merrick Malone, and I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development for the City of Richmond. Before you, I did present the presentation I sent earlier, and it's before you now. I think it's pretty self-explanatory in terms of what we have done in terms of the funding that we have had for home ownership programs. And it's interesting that if you look at the amount of money that we have spent with Home Inc. and Southside to provide both housing counseling and the $30,000 of home assistance, purchase assistance. When you add those numbers, it comes to right, and divided by the 64 households that we were able to create, it comes to $30,000 per household. I think that if you look at that page, our resources, and let me try to back up a minute. When we talk about affordable housing, there has to be an intentionality by the municipality to create it. I always tell people that affordable housing, there's no such thing as an affordable brick or a market rate brick. It's just the cost of bricks. And when the market says that a house can be sold at $100,000 and we're trying to put someone in that can only afford $50,000, where do you think that delta comes from? It comes from the public. It comes from the public sector. We have to be intentional, and either in direct subsidy, one of the tools that we use, like a performance grant, like a parcel tax exemption, like CDBG or federal entitlement funds. Because if that doesn't happen, then it doesn't pencil and we don't have affordability. The market will do what the market does. And that's why we talk about intentionality, because if we're not intentional, if you don't provide the subsidies, those deals do not get financed. And so I think it's really important to understand that at the outset. So one of the things that these tools do is help to fill that gap, whether it's increase in density for additional, to build additional, whether it's low income housing tax credits, whether they're 4% or 9%. But in some way, shape, or form, that's what has to happen to make projects affordable, to make them work. So we don't really have a problem with how we invest and where we invest. We just don't have enough financial resources for the amount of challenges that we have in terms of affordability. We have, so I think one of the things that, if you go to the next page, we talk about performance grants. Performance grants has helped us put literally in about 2 years, about 2,814 projects in a pipeline for development. If you look at them, you got the 390 units are between 0 and 50% of AMI, and then you have 2,424 units that are between 50 and 80% of AMI. You also look at that when we talk about how we use our funds, what's really important is how we leverage funds. In other words, we provide a lot of gap financing, and that allows us to work on projects that attract private investment to those projects. So in the case of this, you look at the total development costs and you look at what our what we have put in it, the leverage of what we bring to the table from private investment is quite substantial. I'll give you another example. We had $20 million in ARPA funding that we had over 2 years, and we done over 2,000. We're doing over 2,000 units of funding of housing, and yet what we were able to leverage in private investment was almost $554 million. So again, when we use our funding, it's gap funding. The other thing is that it helps our development partners who do this for us. Our tools help them become more competitive when they're competing for the 9% and 4% tax credits. And remember, they're competing with projects all over the state of Virginia. That's these are very competitive. So when we are able to add our tools and are involved with that, it allows them to be more competitive, and they're likely to get funded here in Richmond as opposed to some other city in the state. You can see on the next page. I guess I'm doing a clicker. Oh, I'm not doing this. Okay. So now I'm looking at the affordable on our affordable rental housing development, which is called our Equitable Affordable Housing Program, which is our tax exempt bond program. And if you look in the first year, that's a commitment of $10 million over the next 5 years. We're into our second year. If you look our first year, you'll see we did new construction of total of 526, and then preservation of 296. I think it's really important also to talk here about not just our production, but preservation. What we're finding out is that while we've got a lot of people moving into Richmond, we have a lot of people we have to maintain to keep into Richmond. And our preservation program, we are tailoring them more to that, because I've gone to district meetings, and I asked the question, how many of you own your homes? And when you read, and they raise their hands, I say, well, you better hold on to them, because your kids will never be able to buy them. And now I'm very serious about that. So we have to use our preservation program. For instance, we have a healthy homes program. That was what we took from ARPA money. And we were able to service almost 89 of that 4.2, 89 homes. And why that's important is because we were able to provide things like doors, windows, roofs, averaging between $26,000 and $30,000, which have helped people to stay in their homes or be able to, do cosmetics, which is very important. I can't tell you how many times I'm in those meetings with Don Gravetti, who is a person that runs that program, and people come up to him to thank him for that program. So we think we want to make that a little more robust. But I also want to add that, ARPA goes away. Those ARPA funds go away. We have to have they had to all be committed by the December of 2024. And now all the projects that have been obligated under that have to be completed. They're all under construction, completed, and closed out by December of 2026, December 31st of 2026. So that's a void we have to fill. We're trying to find additional sources of funding. ARPA was at one time, but that we've leveraged that pretty well. If you look also at the home investment, I guess that's the next page. I guess I'm not good at this. Okay. You will look at our affordable rental housing development program, and that's our home investment, which is part of our federal entitlement. So you can see that what we did there, the new construction, the AMI that we served. And again, if you look at the preservation, you can see that the 0 to 30% AMI, we've done of the 96 in preservation, 91 of those were for the population that was between 0 and 30%. We had 5 that were between 61 and 80%. Again, I think the leverage that we have for 0 to 30% really does reside with existing homeowners. It is very difficult to do new construction and more importantly, to finance new construction for 0 to 30%. It's very difficult. So we look at our CDBG, which is the next one, and you'll see that's our community development block grant. We've used that funding to do preservation for 96 units, and this is all primarily for Lafayette Gardens. You'll notice that we have 91 of those from 0 to 30%, and then 61%, 65 units that are from 61 to 80%, total rehabilitation at $3.6 million. Like I said, and that pretty much wraps up that part, because like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. But what I will say that at this moment, we have to identify alternative sources for funding so that we can continue to move forward. I've challenged my team to come up with more creative ways of providing alternative sources of funding. We are looking at the strategic use of how we create affordable housing, at the same time create a revolving loan fund. A revolving loan fund would allow us, like other cities like Atlanta, Montgomery County has a $100 million revolving loan fund. That is an opportunistic loan fund, and it also helps our partners that don't receive 9 and 4% could come to us. We could get them to construction through our revolving loan, and then when we get the construction, the city gets taken out. That money comes back to the revolving loan pool, and with some interest because of us floating that. So I think we are looking at more creative solutions to create more sources of funding. It's not that we don't know how to invest them and put it and leverage them. It's that we just need more money. The need is our, as I like to say, our needs are infinite, our resources are finite, and that's what we've got to do. But it's going to require all of us. I think we will be coming back to you all with some creative things that I think we need to do as a city, both for preservation as well as new construction. We need to be more innovative. I think we as a working closely with my sister agencies, aligning our planning so that we are following what we're, creating a path to this kind of thing is going to be really important. So I think for us, it's not so much the ability to invest. We got a lot of opportunities. We just need to look at new vehicles, some of which I've been very familiar with in other jurisdictions. So with that, Madam Chair, I'm kind of done.
What are you doing?
I'm doing the best I can, trying not to get done.
So, a couple of questions I want to ask you. We've leveraged a lot of units being built in the city of Richmond. We've leveraged a lot of units being built in the city of Richmond.
Yes, we have.
And we've also leveraged preservation of existing homeowners in the city of Richmond as well. And I think we undervalue the work that has been done with the funding that is available. And I think it's important that we put out information that clearly says the total number of units from all of the sources of funds that you've given us. I think it's also important that when we look at, for example, when we're looking at the total investment for the affordable rental housing, $245 million. That's the total investment dollars. That is not the total dollars that the city has invested.
No, that's the total investment dollars, TDC.
I think it's important that we put that out there as well. So if the city put out 10 million or the total 20 million This report should, I would recommend that this report shows that $10 million of the city's revenue, even if it's community development appropriations to the city, that dollar amount has yield a leverage of the multi-million dollars that you're speaking to. And then also, I think it's important that our report clearly identify the total number of units that have been done, total city dollars, whether general funds, through our bonding, or other sources that we're putting in, plus the federal dollars that comes to the city. Because I think sometimes we get beat up pretty bad because of the demand. But I think people fail to recognize the volume of housing that the city is actually leveraging and getting built. And we're probably doing as good a job as some other localities, certainly within this region. We know that we're doing a tremendous job. And I want to make sure that we get full credit, that the city gets full credit, but the taxpayers in the city of Richmond gets full credit to know what we are spending their dollars on and how we are investing their dollars and the leverage that is coming about as far as that. I'm interested in looking at the alternative. I think that the sooner we set up a revolving loan fund would be a great thing to do. I'm 100% supportive of that. I recognize the fact that we are going to have to be competitive, but we also see the opportunity. The other thing that I think that is really important is when we look at the performance grants. It is amazing how many units we've been able to bring on through the performance grant, which is the old tax abatement initiative that we used to do, in a sense, but people pay, the developer pays the tax, they reimburse if they've met the qualification. And the difference is that you don't get it if you aren't doing affordable housing.
Well,
Previously, our tax abatement program built a lot of housing with no requirement for the affordable housing. So that's a major change that the city has made. And so I just want to make sure that we don't have a big enough horn. We don't have a horn that's loud enough and got enough resource to get rid of the crisis. But I really do want to amplify what we are currently doing, and appreciate your leadership and your creativity and your expertise that you bring to the table, you and your team, and the developers.
Thank you.
Who choose to do work in the city of Richmond. And I would also like for you to advise this committee, as you see fit to do so, to make sure that the administrative processes that are in place in the city that could be strengthened or simplified to ensure that we can move the development along the production line at the pace that it needs to. We're not moving as quickly. I think that we have some of our own impediments. We created them, and we have ways that we can address those and look at a way that our production pipeline can be speed up. But I want to thank you for this report. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank the work that your staff is doing, the administration is doing, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. And hopefully, we will always feel like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Advisory Board can do a better job than just approve the applications that you bring before us. Thank you.
I also want to thank you for all the work we're doing. This is one of the most, we're in a housing crisis. It is one of the most important things facing the city, and you'll hear almost all of us talking about it as one of our top priorities. I echo the request that we highlight the leverage of the investment the city puts in and the private investment that it spawns, right? And just to show that relationship for the transparency of city spending and also the success of that leverage. I think I would similarly ask that with our performance grants, we do the same thing, that we show the amount of the tax abatement, as if it were a city investment. I know that given it's over 30 years, it can look like a lot of money. So if you want to do a net present value on it to make it, more of something like that, you can do that. But I think that people need to see that as well, so we can understand the value that we're getting, the number of units for the number of dollars that we're doing for that. And then I think I would also just want to echo my excitement for these alternative tools as well. You even mentioned, the market is just crushing everyone, right? And so the more that we can find solutions that are outside of the market, whether it's nonprofit partners or city-owned systems that can take that profit motive as much as possible out of the equation, I think that's where we're really going to find some great success. So I would encourage you. I'm glad to see that you're looking at those, and I want to thank you for looking at those, and I'm excited to see those reports.
I thank you. I did want to say, Chairman, that I apologize. We have a comprehensive chart with all of the things, but it's big. We'll email it to you. I'll make sure you always have it, that breaks down the units, the leverage, everything that we update it regularly, but it will show the amount of money that the city has put in, shows the amount of money, the private investment, the number of units, the AMI. We break that down. I thought it was a lot to send for this particular meeting, but I certainly will make sure you have it after this meeting. And then when we come back, you'll have it. Because that's how we keep track.
You good? Thank you. All right. Thank you for this. Quick question. Well, I feel like we was privy to this at our meeting on Thursday. Is this the same presentation?
With a little twist.
Yeah. So thank you, because this was great, and it was great for the residents to really be able to have a better understanding. And after, we asked the question, like, change doesn't seem as bad, when you kind of have the full picture and the full story of what is actually happening. My question for you is, how do you determine like who's eligible for the preservation?
Well, what happens is that we kind of follow there's a HUD guidelines that we kind of use, and we've got an application form. So we look at the various, and then we've got an application form. I can even give you that. And then based on the application, the eligibility requirements, if you're eligible, then in fact that's how we determine it. We had a waiting list of people. We could only fund, so many. A lot of them applied that weren't eligible, unfortunately, but we would tell them, here's the things you need to do to become eligible. So generally, we follow the HUD guidelines, and then we have some other criteria that we use for that particular
And
program.
how is that information published? Like, how do residents find out about that? Where is that?
It should be on our website. We've also sent out flyers when we were doing this. But basically they can look on our website.
So if I had a resident that needed some preservation done to their home, I would send them to HCD, or would I send
No, you could send them to HCD. You send them to Don Gravetti specifically.
Okay. All right. And this is this?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should add this, Chairman. We also have a repair that we do with Project Homes. We contract with them, and they do the repair also. So they have a waiting list. We've done half of it. They've done the other half. So they are also. We've had people that when we used up all our funding, we would send them over to Project Homes. We work pretty closely together on that.
So the funds for the preservation are you've allocated all those funds, and for on the city side, who actually does that preservation?
We from the city side, we contract that out with Project Homes, but we also, with our Healthy Homes program, we did that internally at ACD. We managed that program.
And that program, all the funds have been allocated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if someone has a preservation, they would have to go through HCD, but essentially you would then refer them to
Project Homes. If they have. Yeah. But our goal is, again, with seeking this alternative funding, and I think we've identified some other funding that should come to us or should have come to us, that we would be using that funding to help fund the preservation part of it, because the home repair has been really giving us a good return. Like I said, there are people that who live in their houses now, and because of and have lived here all their lives, and I think it's really kind of criminal that you get to that point where you're now on a fixed income, and we're excited about our largesse coming into the city, but we have to remember the people that have stayed here, and you don't want them having to make a choice between having to pay the taxes or doing capital improvements to their home, and it gets away from them. So we're looking at how do we make our preservation programs more robust.
Yeah. And then one last question, the preservation piece there, I believe on Thursday, the mention of there was like a home, an apartment complex that had like some kind of like preservation work or something to that effect. Does that go through HCD as well?
Right, that does. Lafayette Gardens is probably the one they were referring to, that particularly, because that is the building that we're doing. In fact, the using federal entitlement funds.
So, and this is again, it's just me asking questions, but like when we are talking about these apartment complexes that have all those issues, and like even bringing forward the rental inspection program, like are those, or how would those apartment complexes be eligible for preservation dollars? Like, is that?
Yeah, well, they would obviously have to apply. There's an application, part of it. Like right now, we just got back the 13 million that we put out on the street for application. We did a NOFA for, and we just got back those proposals. So we're reviewing those now, and they range from preservation to new construction. So we're looking at, and we'll be comparing those, new construction to new construction, single family to single families, to look at that. And of that 13, and while we have 13 million that we put out there, we had 45 million, I think, in requests. So we're going to have to do our underwriting criteria and whatnot to get to what we need to do.
Thank you. Appreciate everything that you do and all the work that you are doing at HCD to continue to keep things moving. But I have a couple of more questions I'll ask you offline.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else? There's no one else to speak. Well, this is a presentation, I'm sorry. So up next is Mr. Bobby Vincent.
Good afternoon, Council. Bobby Vincent, Director of Public Works, here today to present to you all fiscal year 2026 traffic calming program, and to give you all some logistics with regards to our traffic calming and transportation initiatives. I always like to start things off just with a little bit of characteristics of the city of Richmond. We're now up to 231,000 people, 1.3 million metro-wide, all of which use our network and our transportation grid. We have almost 880 miles of sidewalks, 200 miles of alleys, and over 1,800 lane miles of streets that we actually pay for from VDOT. The actual 2,600 lane miles approximately that we do in fact have, we don't get paid for that difference due to the fact of turning lanes and parking lanes. I'm going to keep on talking about that until we can get that through to the General Assembly to get that money. Looking at our street lights, we have nearly 43,000 street lights in the city of Richmond and over 120,000 street trees, which you all will wind up seeing a presentation from our city's urban forester, Mr. Michael Webb, shortly thereafter. I'm looking at the various divisions. We have 13 divisions within the Department of Public Works, ranging from solid waste, roadway maintenance, bridge maintenance, CIP, where you heard from Mr. Kara earlier. We have traffic engineering, the Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility, facilities, as well as streetlights, grounds maintenance, and paving. Quite a grouping of divisions, and they all work together in order to take care of the public right of way. Our mission is to provide a clean, safe, and healthy environment. Looking at this street grid, I always love to put this up here because this is what we're responsible for in the city of Richmond. This is not what our sister agents or our sister localities have to contend with. They don't have their utilities directly in their streets. Most of their utilities are located back up on their grasslands. This is one of the primary reasons why we have many of the issues that we do in fact have within our roads. And thank you all for continuing with our investment of $21 million a year, $15 million of which is going directly to paving. We have about 1.5 going towards speed tables and various traffic calming projects, another 3 million with regards to making up the difference on some of our CIP projects. And last but not least, approximately 1.5 million that winds up going towards sidewalk and other various CIP improvements. Looking at the city of Richmond and seeing those improvements back in 2018, we had a PCI rating of 35%, which indicates 35% of our roads were good or better. As you look at that same map in 2020-25, 75% of our streets are good or better. And that number is declining a little bit. We're closer to 74% now. Why? Because costs have been going up. In addition to that, we've also been utilizing a great deal of our paving dollars to do other things within the public right-of-way in addition to paving, such as ADA ramps, as well as speed tables, and we're also doing more striping with regards to bike lanes, and replacing some signage along the way as well. So we're not slipping much at all, but we did want to note that, and we're hoping to gain another 6%, hopefully, over the next couple of years. Looking at what we've been doing in order to make things more safe in the public right-of-way, we've been utilizing GIS. We're all about data management within the Department of Public Works. We like to make our decisions based on data, not on verbiage. Such as a whole lot, a little bit, or not enough, or whatever. I like to give you all exact numbers to go by, and so does our team. So as you look at the map in the center, those are all of the streets in the city of Richmond that are posted for 25 miles per hour. The upper right are those streets that's posted from 30 to 35 miles per hour. And the bottom right is the lone street that's 45 miles per hour in the city of Richmond, which is Chippenham Parkway. We have all of these streets and all of the information and infrastructure associated with them. That are in fact located within our GIS database. Looking at our 95th percentile data, what this is indicating is that this illustration is indicating that 95% of the people are driving at or below the designated speeds. Now, when I've said this at a lot of our meetings, we have a lot of people shaking their head, and I get it. I understand. When I looked at my own street, which I live on Barton Avenue, the average speed was 19 miles per hour. And I know I see people going 40. The difference is the average and the median speed. So on many of our streets in the city of Richmond, because we do have high density areas throughout our city, we may have 10,000 vehicles per day. 95% means that 9,500 of them are driving at and or near the speed limit. That means 500 people could be driving in a very reckless way. That's where the enforcement comes in. So we're working wholeheartedly with the department of, with our Richmond Police Department as well as Richmond Fire in order to do the 3 E's of traffic management and traffic calming within our city, which is engineering, education, and enforcement. Looking at this map here is 85th percentile, indicating that on these streets is where we're tending to try to put in more dollars, because these are the streets where the optical illusion is for people to be able to drive faster. A perfect example is the Lee Bridge, which is very wide. There's no trees, obviously. There's not much infrastructure there other than concrete. So the optical illusion gives people the ability to be able to drive faster than 35 miles per hour. So we're in the process of trying to do some things from an infrastructure standpoint in order to change that optical illusion, which will also be able to slow people down. The high injury network is displayed in front of you, where 58% of the deaths and serious injuries occur on 16% of the streets. Now, this map here and that data is about a year and a half old. We're now up to where about 75% of the deaths occur on about 9% of the city streets. The high injury network is real. And the reason why it's so real is because this is where people feel as though they can drive faster. It's more cars that are going, and people aren't being as patient as they have been in prior decades. Looking at how we're utilizing this data and what we're going about to get it, we've done a speed analysis of the entire city of Richmond. And we have every street has been analyzed within the city of Richmond. So looking at the upper right-hand corner, that's Chamberlain, just looking at an example of that particular stretch, the posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour, but the 95th percentile is 46 miles per hour. When you look at the bottom one on the right, that's Hall Street, where the posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour, but the 95th percentile is 48 miles per hour. These are the streets that are located on the high injury network, and we're doing projects such as that Mr. Carroll just left from up here discussing with regards to the $10 million. We're doing things like changing our signalization, doing upgrades, such upgrades that have taken place on Chamberlain, and we have more upgrades scheduled and forecast for multiple phases of Hall Street, one of which we are, in fact, putting a pause on. After visiting with some of our citizens, they want to know more information, and that's what we're in the process of trying to do, to be as transparent as possible within our democracy, which we do, in fact, realize from the Department of Public Works, from a transportation standpoint, and all operations that we do, in fact, live in. So Hall Street, what we are looking at doing on the mid portion of Hall Street, which is basically in between East Broad Rock and 28th Street, actually going from Cowarden all the way to 37th, is reducing it to one lane in each direction, which we do feel will provide traffic calming, but we want to make certain that we do it in a way and in a fashion that is suitable for those residents that do live in that area. So that's what we're in the process of doing, and I believe a meeting will be set up within the next 2 weeks in order to have that discussion. When we look at what we're doing in our neighborhoods that aren't on the high injury network, we're installing speed tables. Every single council district right now has had speed tables installed, inclusive of the second, which is our one of our most high density council districts that has plenty of signalized intersections as well as four-way stops. But even within that district, we have a relatively high number of speed tables that are in fact located within that district. The speed tables have been working. A recent study with VCU police has indicated and shown that they've been forced to give less tickets along Curry Street, along Main Street, where we have in fact installed speed tables. I know that we get a lot of requests from neighborhoods throughout the city of Richmond trying to compare their neighborhood to that area. We can't do that because VCU area has about 30,000 students, very high density, in the same size and the same geographic region as a regular neighborhood in our city that may only have 500 homes. So we are detecting the difference between high density as well as traffic volumes on all of our roads. Looking at this map here, which for some reason went a little bit haywire, but it shows, here, it cut out a part of my slide. But anyway, citywide fatalities, which this data is from 2017 to 2025. We've had 141 citywide fatalities that occurred in 139 fatal accidents. Looking at the total number of accidents, which you do in fact have in front of you, which I will have in front of me in one brief moment, is a total of 35,555 accidents that have in fact occurred over that time period from 2017 to 2025. 24,000 of them are property damage only. So as you can see, we take a look at this type of data in order to analyze the types of projects that need to take place within the various neighborhoods throughout our city, whether it's traffic calming in the way of putting in roundabouts or traffic calming in the way of putting in speed tables. In Carytown, for instance, in the Carytown neighborhood, there were 619 accidents. 80% of them were property damage only. In Woodland Heights, 248 accidents, 68% property damage only. In Churchill, 381 accidents, 74% property damage only, and 2% KAs, which represent either a death or a serious injury. Looking at the amount of money that we're spending towards transportation, over the next 5 years, we anticipate spending about $1.2 billion within our transportation grid. Now, the good thing is that a large percentage of this of this funding is coming from other means other than our local taxpayers. We have CVTA local dollars, which is coming from the gas tax from the state. We have CVTA regional, which is coming from specialized projects that's approved within the by the state and local regional neighbors. We have federal and state dollars where we're also getting it, and then we go into our geo bonds with regards to getting funding from the city of Richmond taxpayers themselves. And then last but not least, VDOT work, which also helps us to be able to make up the difference for the maintenance within our public right-of-way. Alternative funding methods that we've been utilizing, smart scale, as well as the city was just awarded multiple projects in terms of multi-million-dollar projects for safe streets throughout our city. Last but not least, looking at the types of projects, we have streetscape projects, where we currently have over $21 million worth of projects that are active. We have $60 million worth of active multimodal projects currently going on. We have $64 million worth of active bridge projects and $80 million worth of complete streets projects. This is just a simple note that's in there that also goes a little bit deeper into the dive of how many projects that we have that are in fact active and or upcoming within the city of Richmond, where there's over $656 million worth of active and or recently approaching projects. Last but not least, the combination of planning, transportation, operation, and maintenance, where we're doing lighter, quicker, cheaper projects. We're overlaying those projects with our operations and maintenance staff, working together with our planning, and that's also working together with regards to our engineers. And at this point in time, I wanted to open up the floor for any questions and or comments that you all may wind up having. And if anyone has any questions that they want to go to our website to see, we have our neighborhood traffic management program, as well as our Path to Equity and Richmond Connects, as well as our CIP, all located on rva.gov under Public Works.
You got questions? I know you do. Well, before I let my colleague go, because this is great. I think this is great because we literally were just we were conversing about this about maybe 1:00 this afternoon, just really saying how I think the more we can get a better sense of like what's happening across the city, it will help us prioritize, right? So like when we're looking at the needs, like one area of the city, the high need might be sidewalks, and then one area of the city, the high need might be bike lanes, or or it might just be paving, or all those things that you named. But like this gives a clear sense of like looking at it from a full scope, not just by district. And then we work together on and with you based on what you present to us on what you see as the priority. So I think this is great, and it entails a lot of information that I think we should probably continue to build on. But like I think we really, because we know that pedestrian safety is a huge issue in the city, and the city is continuing to grow. I think I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I think how can we make this conversation something that happens a little more often other than just a presentation? So maybe quarterly or something to that, something just to make sure that we are able to like share with our constituents what's happening, what's going on, the why, instead of always having to come to you, bugging you. But I think some sort of consistency just around
Yes, ma'am.
this on a regular would help kind of dispel some of the questions, but then also some of the assumptions, I think, and it will show that we're all trying to work together to make a safer city for everyone. So I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you listening after the meeting, to your point, and pausing and saying, hey, we need to come back. We're gonna make a special meeting for you all to be able to say what it is. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I really appreciate all that you do to do that. So thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And Councilmember Breton, I know that you had about 7 questions for us, and we have answered those questions, and we have them in written format for you that we're going to send to you actually now. And so the answers to those questions will be coming your way. If you have additional questions and or follow up to those, we can. And just to peruse those questions with the committee, it was primarily talking about the data that we have, in fact, been coming up with from Urban SDK. They utilize cell phones in terms of pinging the cell phones to find out the speed and the quantity of vehicles that are traveling, not just throughout the city of Richmond, but also throughout the country. So right now they're operating in almost every state in the United States, in over 220 cities throughout our country. And the data that we're getting back is data that is priceless, is information that we're able to acquire based upon the speed of the vehicle, the amount of vehicles that are traveling through an area per day. And we are looking at making this information, most of the information anyway, available through our website, hopefully before the end of summer 2025. And so the information will be placed out there in a way that laymen will be able to understand it and not just looking at it from a geospatial engineering standpoint. So that is one of the questions that I know that you had that I did want to answer.
Yeah, the data is very, I mean, it's so valuable. And I think people are gonna love to see it. And then they're gonna have kind of just like the reaction you had where you imagined, wait a minute, this doesn't match my intuition around this block, right? Their next question is gonna say, how do I trust this data? So I think the other thing that we should make sure that we proactively do is, work with Urban SDK to get the validation of their algorithm, right? Like they're not picking every cell phone, they're doing averages, et cetera. So let's make sure that we have confidence in the algorithms they're using and that we can, transparently promote to residents that the data is in fact, that it is accurate, right? So if that's something that I think we should continue to do with them.
Gotcha.
I think the other two questions I had were, similar to all this traffic data, it would be wonderful, and I don't know how we can do this, to see like pedestrian data, like whether it's sidewalk quality or the number of people that are walking in areas, right? It would be great to see that information, A, to know where the need is for pedestrian safety, and also B, to see where the places are where people don't even feel safe enough to walk, right? So that finding a way to get that information about like the pedestrian score of our city would be a great thing to overlay with our traffic scores. And then I know actually what's interesting, we often talk about our paving quality and it's the value to our drivers is clear, right? I have lots of neighbors who call me about paving all the time. What I think is less clear is the safety connection of paving and to what extent paving is central to our safety strategy or actually a distraction from our safety strategy, right? So I know we spend a lot on paving and it has a lot of visibility, but maybe you can speak to how paving fits in with our safety strategy.
Okay. So the way paving fits into the safety strategy is when someone is walking down a sidewalk, more times than not, they're very familiar with the area that they're walking down. Not in all cases, but most of the time when somebody's walking across the sidewalk that's in front of their home, in front of their neighbors and within their neighborhood. When you're walking at a very slow speed, unless you're jogging on the sidewalk. When you're driving, you're not as familiar with the road that you're going down if there's a new pothole or something of that nature. When you're walking and you trip and fall, unfortunately, most of our trip and falls only impact that one individual. When someone is driving, going 35 miles per hour down the street and they hit a pothole, we've unfortunately had people to perish from that, or they wind up being in a car accident where they are hitting and impacting more individuals than just themselves. And so from a safety standpoint, we look at the road network as being number one. After the road network, then at that point in time, if we can control those 6,000-pound weapons that people are driving that we call cars, if we can control them at that point in time, then we can do a better job of controlling motorcycles. If we can do a better job of controlling motorcycles, then we can do a better job of controlling our bicyclists, all the way down to those individuals that are walking. And so that's how we start with regards to working backwards with regards to the biggest threat, which are vehicles, all the way down to the least threat, which are pedestrians.
Thank you very much for all that, and I appreciate all the time you spent with us today, and also the calls you take from us on the side as well.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Miss Laura Thomas, tree canopy is up next. Thank you.
Great. Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Laura Thomas. I'm the Director of Sustainability for the City of Richmond. Happy to be here today to help talk about tree canopy and neighborhood cooling. It's an important topic that is related to several other things we've already heard today. Our folks in DPU, DPW, Parks and Recreation, it really takes the whole organization to address our urban tree canopy. So we're excited to be working across silos and supporting and enhancing our urban tree canopy. Trees help to reduce flooding, reduce home energy bills, reduce stormwater runoff, and improve stormwater quality, improve air quality, reduce driving speeds, and more, according to Rob Farrell, who is the Virginia Department of Forestry urban forester. Trees are the answer. So we're excited to have several different initiatives that are combined to make a greater impact. And we want to make sure that we're always staying in alignment with Richmond 300 and RVA Green 2050. During the Richmond 300 process, we kind of uncovered that there's a 20-year difference in life expectancies in different zip codes in our community, and that is due to historic redlining and then previous policies that followed. And we are making sure that we're putting trees at the center of addressing that because it impacts public health so much. But with that, for the actual presentation, I'm actually going to turn it over to Tara Warden, Sustainability Manager.
Thank you, Director Thomas. Good afternoon. I'm Tara Warden, the Sustainability Manager, and today I'll be providing an update on our efforts to protect and expand the Richmond tree canopy with a focus on neighborhoods that are most impacted by extreme heat and flooding. So, like Laura was mentioning, why is the tree canopy vital? Trees are powerful tools for improving quality of life and addressing climate vulnerabilities. Urban tree canopies provide shade, cool temperatures, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to repeat everything that Laura just mentioned. Our strategic approach focuses on 4 key elements. It's a data-driven assessment, implementation of cooling strategies, community partnerships, and policy development. This work was guided both by Richmond 300 and RVA Green 2050, and these plans were developed with extensive community outreach and approved by council. They serve as the foundation for our work plan. So we recently completed the Richmond Resilience Assessment. It's a decision support tool that identifies where climate vulnerabilities and social vulnerabilities intersect. This helps us identify target investments where they're needed most. And just to recap on, we looked at 2 vulnerability threats, that being extreme heat and flood inundation. There's full reports that we can provide to you. They're fascinating information, but key to the extreme heat is that essentially majority of census tracts in the city are categorized as highly vulnerable to extreme heat, and this is driven by extreme high temperatures, extensive impervious surface cover, limited tree canopy, and limited adaptive capacity. And when I say adaptive capacity, I mean things that limit folks' ability to adapt to the realities of that which they're facing. For example, in the Fairfield neighborhood, which is called out on this map here, it's considered highly vulnerable to extreme heat because over 30% of the residents are 65 or older, which is a population that is acutely impacted by high heat days. And in the Oak Grove Bellmead neighborhood, residents faced heightened vulnerability due to socioeconomic challenges, as most of the folks there are renters and they live below the poverty line. In relation to the flood inundation findings, 70% of all residential properties are highly vulnerable to flooding. This includes these recent FEMA flood map updates that were mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. We've hosted 2 staff trainings for this tool. It's an incredibly powerful tool when scoping new capital improvement projects to determine which climate threats should be addressed with infrastructure investments. Moving right along, based on this assessment, we developed the Richmond Cool Book, which is currently in draft form, but we are quickly pulling it together for one of the very hot days that is quickly approaching. It is the city's first urban heat mitigation strategy. It outlines 25 cooling strategies for public and private properties, focusing on urban greening, shade, smart surfaces, and depaving. There's a quick preview of what the cover will look like. This resource will help project managers incorporate heat mitigation strategies to capital projects and maintenance operations. And the third sort of prong of our approach is this community partnerships. We recognize that our effectiveness is limited without community support and participation. A key strategy is empowering our community-based organizations to lead. And last year, we secured $6 million in USDA Urban and Community Forestry Grant for our Cool the City initiative. This partnership is between city departments, community organizations, and focuses on the south side and east end neighborhoods with the highest temperatures and least tree cover. Key outcomes of this project: over the 5-year grant period, the Parks Department will plant 750 trees. Over 1,000 trees will be planted by CBOs across high heat neighborhoods. The project will create one new food forest, 5 orchard plantings, and 5 Miyawaki forests, which are tiny forests. Over 1,500 trees will be given away to residents, and most excitingly, we are so jazzed about the Richmond Tree Plan being under development. Our first urban forest master plan, which will be led by our urban forester, Michael Webb, who's here. Progress to date: we launched this in the summer of last year. We officially launched it on Earth Day. I know Councilmember Jones was in attendance at that event. 177 trees have been planted, 18 green workforce certificates have been awarded, over 155 community members have been engaged, and as our project team always says, this work is making Richmond's hottest neighborhoods even cooler. Oh, I do want to mention some of the challenges that we've faced most recently. We've received verbal instruction from the grant administrators to stop using certain terms, including climate change, climate crisis, climate justice, equity, and race. And so we've been instructed to focus on the outcomes of the grant, really focusing on improving tree canopy coverage and stormwater management and heat mitigation. Despite these challenges, we continue to do the work. We're making steady progress towards our goals, and we have been reimbursed for the dollars that we've spent already. So the funding is still there. The sort of last prong of the work that we're doing around tree canopy coverage is policy development to sustain the work. HB 2630 was signed in March 2025. It gives all Virginia localities the authority to establish tree canopy requirements and dedicated tree funds. Previously, this authority was limited to Planning District Number 8 in Northern Virginia. So we are currently working with urban forestry and planning to draft an ordinance to the zoning code that would establish minimum tree canopy requirements for new development. And this state enabling legislation caps these requirements for new development based on land uses, and you can see the range on the slide here. It also allows us to establish a tree canopy fund for developers that are unable to fulfill tree canopy requirements on site. They can contribute to a fund, which can be used by the city to plant and maintain trees in priority neighborhoods. This fund will provide a sustainable financing mechanism to expand the urban forest, and particularly in areas with the greatest need for cooling and environmental benefits. So as we move forward, we would appreciate the subcommittee's support in providing both feedback on our work, including the draft tree canopy ordinance, which you'll see long in advance before it becomes part of our work. And supporting our interdepartmental collaboration to integrate heat mitigation strategies and tree canopy considerations into city projects and new developments. So by taking this comprehensive approach, we're ensuring that all Richmonders benefit from the cooling, health, and quality of life improvements that trees provide. I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, the chair and I are both very excited to hear about the possibility of tree canopy coverage. And I suppose maybe that's for another time, but we'd love a preview of like the level, like the number of types of developments that it may cover, and the form that it might take.
So as it stands right now, we can place requirements on new developments, whether they're commercial, industrial, residential, or mixed use. It's truly just a matter of we have state and caps at different percentages. So commercial is capped at 10%, residential, depending on the number of units on per acreage, it ranges between 10 and 20%. and then mixed use is based on what the percentage of the mix is. So the most likelihood is that developers are going to see a better ROI on their development if they contribute to a tree canopy fund. One interesting thing about the policy is that it allows for the city to either use those funds or disperse those funds to nonprofit organizations that are focused on tree canopy improvements. So there's a number of different ways we can scope the policy. It's in its infancy. It was just passed in March, so we've had some internal planning conversations. I think I'm looking at Director Vonk here. We had talked about it being as part of code refresh. I think because there's a urgency in making sure that most developments are covered or sort of on the hook for this type of thing, we're going to track it separately.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate all the work that you all are doing. And like my colleague said here, just excited about the many facets of how the, tree canopy and neighborhood cooling program is helping not just, how can you say it? It's helping the city as a whole, right? Because even though you're doing it in certain areas, it's still creating an awareness of the need for trees and why, despite those areas that may or may not have them. And so I think the more we continue to elevate those conversations, I think the more people will understand the disparity also that exists. And, as we are thinking about new projects and new things and, doing things in the city, taking that into account. In so many ways. So thank you so much. Thank you for all the work that you all are doing at in the Office of Sustainability, and keep it going. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
There's no boards and commissions or anything, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I think okay. Well, I think we no further business. This meeting is adjourned. We already did the approval of the minutes, so we good.